Let me hear Jerod Mayo yesterday, or I'm sorry, Keon White, discussing Jerod Mayo and the differences with Bill Belichick.
The flow in the program
Not really. I mean, we don't got Bill cursing us out every play anymore, but it's still pretty similar.
Okay. So, again, I read into everything. I know people like to pick and choose what they read into. I read into everything.
Transparent, I sent this along to you.
I read into everything. And
Someone in my house was complaining about this quote and how it was getting blown out of proportion. And I was like, wait, who said that?
I mean,
that's great for the show. Please show me.
I mean, we don't got Bill cursing us out.
Okay. They don't have Bill cursing them out. It's being read into too much?
Some people believe that is being read into too much, and it's quite silly.
Well, again, do we want to talk about OTAs, or do we want to just ignore everything that happens and just not talk about anything that happens at OTAs? That's a player saying Bill's not cursing us out.
Because he's not there.
Yeah.
Right. It's a change of pace.
Okay, so what's he really saying there? He's saying that
he goes on to
it's
say
an easier camp.
He goes on to say that he liked Bill's kind of coaching,
right?
And I don't know if that's him.
Yeah, he did, but it was like
covering up.
No, 100. How many questions later was it? I listened to that. How many questions later was it? There was a whole full question in the middle.
Well, somebody asked an irrelevant question where I was like, "Hey, no offense, dummy. Why don't you go back to that thing that he just said that's actually interesting?"
Right.
And then somebody followed up and was like, "Hey,
yeah, you
Bill
know what you just said?
You guys out."
Right, and so he walked it back. Like, I don't read into that. Like, no, I love Bill too, because he realized he stepped in it. But it's like it's an easier camp, right? Isn't that the takeaway?
Definitely. And I don't think he necessarily stepped in it in the eyes of the franchise. You know, taking a shot at Bill is not exactly something the franchise is swayed away from. And by the way, Keon White was a rookie last year, right? So all he knows of Bill is this 4-win piece of crap team that he was on. And yeah, so Bill's not here anymore. We're on to the next thing. Hopefully it's better. Like, I can see that entire outlook. I get what he's saying 100%.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't miss Bill. I think Bill deserved to be out of a job. Now, we're going to see if the Mayo approach works. I have no idea if that's going to work. And if you can just be their buddy instead of their coach. I don't know if that's going to work. We're going to find out. But I'm with Keon White. Good. Bill's not there cursing them out. I'm with him on that.
Yeah, that's what they wanted. So, we'll see how it plays out. My fear is that with Jerod Mayo, it does become an overcorrection. It does become the Pete Carroll.
Well, to jump in, you watched that video, I know you did, where Drake May at the end is yelling at Jalen Polk, or not yelling at him, but he's like, hey, you should really be beating me in this role. What'd you think of Jerod Mayo coaching in that?
I didn't think much.
Didn't feel like a coach.
I didn't think much.
Like, he was just kind of, and I'm so used to watching Bill Belichick, and I'm not saying it won't work. It might work for Jerod Mayo. But it was striking to see all these training camp videos and OTA videos and everything else that I know people on the text line love to read into when you see it in your America's Game footage way back when Bill is coaching them. You want to read into that retroactively. But it's just striking that Mayo was just like talking. It didn't feel like coaching. It wasn't yelling. It wasn't chewing anybody out. It was just talking to them.
But again, just to play devil's advocate over here, this is the portion of the off-season program when it's literally install. It's educating the guys. It's bringing them along, teaching. Maybe when you get to, there's mandatory mini camp, which is a little more of that. When you get to training camp, maybe we will see Jerod Mayo chewing guys out and being a little harsher and, swinging the whistle and yelling at everybody.
I can't stand it. Run it again.
Why would you see that in OTAs, though? I mean, you're instructing.
There was one area
you're
where...
like, yell at him for kicking the bag?
Well, no, just like, again, it was just the whole way he carried himself. And there was one area where he coached it up, and he was hitting the bag with his elbow or his shoulder or whatever, and he's like, you should hear the pop on the bag. And so, to me, that was the one area where I'm like, okay, that looks a little bit like a coach. Otherwise, he's just running around talking to people. And I don't just mean like little chit-chats on the side. I mean, like, while he was taking them through coaching points, it was just talking to them.
He's just acting like he's on Quicksland.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying it won't work. It might work, but it's very noticeably different than Bill Belichick, which is what they wanted.
Yeah, and they wanted someone who related to players maybe a little bit better. I think that's part of it, too. This is an ex-player, which Bill also wasn't, who's closer in age and who probably relates to these guys more on a different level anyway than Bill did. Bill was this icon who could just, do anything and say anything, and they all had to fall in line. With Mayo, he knows he's not that. He knows, I think he understands that he's not Bill Belichick and that he doesn't have that kind of, hand in this process. So he's doing it differently. I think that makes sense for him. He shouldn't try to be Bill Belichick. I feel like every time a coach tries to do that,
that's a disaster.
They end up looking like idiots and their team sucks. So it's like, I'm fine with him not doing it.
It's completely fair. That's completely fair. And again, I'm not saying it won't work, but it's very noticeable. Twitch chat is asking, who did he step in it with? The media. Like when he goes, "Oh yeah, I didn't like I'm tired of Bill yelling at me," and then the
He
media
didn't
pounces
say that.
on
He
him.
said, "I don't have Bill
I mean, we
cursing
don't got Bill
me
cursing
out."
us out every
Yeah.
play anymore, but it's still pretty similar.
Does it sound like he liked it?
He says the only difference is Bill's not riding my ass through this OTA.
Does it sound like he misses Bill
well,
cursing
he
at him?
does go on to say he misses.
I know, because he realized he stepped in it. And I'm saying, and the question is, who'd he step in it with? The media. He's like, well, oh, they're circling back to that. They're latching onto that. Oh yeah, let me tone that down. It was my read on that when I watched it.
Yeah, I love it when a 70-year-old man is yelling at me and I got sweat dripping from every single pore and I am ready to die, but it's not good enough because that's not how they did it back in the 70s.
Look,
oh, yeah, I love that so much.
I think on some the players liked Bill to a degree. They were done with him. Like, are we doubting that? Like, I definitely think even a guy like Keon White, who's 1 year in the league under his belt, now going into his second year, I think they were done with him.
I think Keon White was like one of Bill's guys, though, is the thing. I think that
He doesn't
like
sound
actually
like it.
responded to that a little bit.
I don't know what to tell you. He doesn't sound like it. If he was one of his guys, he's got a weird way of saying it.
Yeah, I can confirm that.
So, I mean, that's my read on it.
He didn't say it in a way where he sounded like getting yelled at was something really awful, and that was something that he couldn't stand, and he's never been yelled at like
Well, why
that
bring it
before
up?
in his career. I don't know, because it's different. It's a difference that you have here. You know, last year it was Bill, and he does it his way, and he's not here now, and it's noticeable that he's not here. You could read it that way, too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. So you think he's ripping Mayo? He's ripping somebody there. Is he ripping Mayo?
I don't necessarily think that there's a bunch of ripping going on.
There's
right
no
there.
ripping?
I don't know that there's ripping there. I'm not sure I hear ripping.
Don't read into it as well.
Yell at me.
You're telling me don't read into it.
Uh-oh.
No, I just said I don't hear ripping. You can read in whatever you want. I'm saying I don't hear ripping.